Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
And welcome to our January Birds of Essex from the Essex Birdwatching Society. Tonight I've got Steve Grimwade, Vice Chairman of the Society, and from Swallow Birding, and Matt Turner, Assistant to the Society. How you doing, guys?
Hey, good, thank you. Not bad. How's things with you?
Very good. We made it through that monster epic review of 2020.
Oh, it was good though, wasn't it?
It was, wasn't it? But God, I was shattered afterwards.
Yeah,
I'm glad I've got a comfortable chair, put it that way.
I've got a new chair since the last time.
I thought that's why you said that, because you knew that Steve did not have a comfortable chair that night.
You can tell because I start fidgeting and I like.
What, start dancing as well?
That's sort of dancing.
That's brilliant. No, we over 2 hours, and Howard and Simon as well. Hats off to those of you that, well, the fact that you've come back for more tonight, but you'll find that and lots of other material now getting organised on the YouTube channel. And that talk, virtual talk, Roy Atkins.
Really good.
Yeah,
Fantastic
excellent.
talk. Yeah.
Very good.
So pick that one up and have a look around the YouTube site. Yeah, that's a really great talk on Highland wildlife. So, Steve, tell us what we've got coming up tonight.
Oh, well, we've got, we're lucky to have Birdwatching Society President Simon Wood talking about bird recording and, birds in Essex. We've got a few little topics tonight. We're talking about footwear, welly boots or walking boots. What do you prefer? A little bit of COVID-related stuff. We're also looking at field guides tonight. What our favourite field guides are. Do we prefer photographic or illustrations? So we're talking about that tonight, and just general bird news and what we've been seeing and what we expect to see in the coming weeks.
Excellent. Thanks, Steve. And we better find out how to people can get in touch, because we want your feedback tonight from what do you use? So we've actually got a Twitter feed going on at the moment on my Twitter feed, Linford Birder. Just look for the picture of my wellies, because I had a bit of a disaster on at the weekend and found I had a hole in my wellies just when all the rains come. And so I don't consider them an essential item to go shopping for. So I'm waiting online to pick up a delivery. But I was kind of wondering, what do I do? Do I go for the cheap and cheerful Dunlops, which I've had for a few times? This lot have done kind of several hundred miles and over the last 2 years, or do I, stretch it and go for the neoprene, hoping that they'll last a bit longer? But yeah, kind of give us some feedback, and also on bird guides and on questions tonight. Other things that you want us to cover on these particular sessions. We're going to try and do them monthly or pretty much close to, running alongside the virtual talks on a particular topic. This is more kind of for you guys that are out there live tonight, live streaming. Obviously, if you're watching it later, we're not going to respond. But yeah, kind of give us your feedback, particularly what your sightings are around your own area, because everybody's kind of locked down in COVID. But Steve, you were going to introduce Matt, weren't you, for the next section?
Yes. So Matt's our he's our man that
Mr. Q&A.
Yeah, Mr. Q&A. So, but he's also, if anyone's got any suggestions for captions for this, you can see I spent about 3 minutes on Photoshop on this.
That is terrible, but I know what it is already.
Go on then. What do you think it is?
Introduce yourself, Matt.
It's got to be Matt on chat, isn't it?
It's Matt on chat.
Matt's on chat. Yeah.
Spot on.
Brilliant, mate.
And that's me without the beard, actually, as well, isn't it? That looks a bit weird.
Yeah, well, sorry. There you go.
It's in the chat's mouth.
Don't zoom in too much, please.
No. Do you like your flip-flops?
It's got your beard in
they're
its
pretty
mouth,
good,
Matt.
actually. I like them. I might get a pair. They suit me. And I like the way you slim down my legs a little bit as well. I'm pleased about
that. Matt's on chat tonight. So
Okay. So with that in mind, let me just show people how you can contact us if you wish to. So hopefully everyone can see the screen. Fingers crossed.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you want to ask a question on Twitter, the Twitter handle for the questions tonight is at EBwS Tweets. Facebook is at EBwS Info. I think Steve's probably going to be covering both of those.
I will, yep.
You can text if you wish to on 07930 530044. And you can send an email if you want to at ebwstalks@gmail.com. And while I've got you, don't forget you can follow us on Twitter, which is at Essex Bird News on Twitter. So really, really good because there's always up-to-date information on sightings, pictures, and just general birding stuff in Essex. Facebook is at EBwS Info. And of course, our website is ebws.org.uk. So there's lots of ways that you can interact with us and get involved.
And of course, Matt, there's the EBwS Twitter tweets page as well for more society news and meetings, etc.
Yes, yeah, that's the one. If you want to ask questions tonight at EBwS Tweets, you can pop a question on there.
Brilliant.
Good
Brilliant.
stuff.
Cool. So let's dive into some newsy topics. First off, as I said, my wellies. What are you kind of a welly man, Matt and Steve, or you know, kind of what's your kind of wet weather footwear out where you are?
I've heard that Matt likes rubber, so.
We're talking about footwear still.
Of course. What do you mean?
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. No, I'm actually a leather man, to be fair. I've got a pair of walking boots. I've got a pair of brashers, which are pretty good. The only issue I've had actually is that in the wet weather, the sole, it's got like I think it's a Vibram sole, and it's a bit soft at the side and it's got a little bit of a split. So I filled it with super glue, which seems to have done the job. And obviously it's now covered with mud, so you can't see the glue. But I do have a pair of wellies as well, and I've just got a cheap pair, to be fair. But I'm thinking of maybe getting a pair of muck wellies if I can, because I've heard they're good.
That the neoprene.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got something similar to muck boots, which are again neoprene and rubber, and they are really good. They keep your feet warm. You know, they're not cheap. They're not really expensive like some of the brands, but they are really good. But the last couple of weeks, I've been wearing walking boots with gaiters.
Do they keep your feet dry then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, keep your trousers clean because obviously out there it's very muddy. You know, so that's a good option.
I think you got a lot of grip with walking boots as well, haven't you?
Yeah,
and they're just comfy. You know, they're really comfy to walk for long distances. If you want to go for a nice circular walk, you can go through puddles, mud, and so on.
Yeah.
As I said, I used to be a ski tex man when I was fishing. Remember ski tex? Have you had them, Steve?
Yeah, I remember ski tex. They were great little boots.
Yeah, Battles Bridge, a kind of a little ski factory, used to do great boots, and they had a kind of a lambskin thermal type liner inside them, so they kept your feet warm, but they weren't that good for walking. The kind of liner seemed to kind of rub a bit. So recently I've been Dunlop welly, but then I buy off eBay or Amazon or whatever a little kind of fake lambskin faux fur. As we're talking materials, boys, faux fur is my preference, and stick that in it's a little liner. Although I was reading on websites when I'm doing a bit of research last weekend, a lot of farmers just kind of cut out a piece of carpet tile and whack that in a cheap pair of wellies, and they're in them every day. So anyway, if anybody's got any advice for us on wellies, then please let us know. If you're on Twitter, find my Linford Birder picture and you'll see I actually stuck a cycle in a tube patch over the hole, and so far it's still on. I've been out a couple of times, but cool.
Not that he's tight on wellies, obviously.
You know what? He's got a puncture repair kit on his wellies. I've got super glue on my boots, so why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? If it works.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next topic is a little bit more serious. I was out it was Tuesday morning, on my walk and bird watching down in my local area, and had a phone call from a friend who is also a member, and he was quite, kind of animated because he'd just actually had a situation where he'd been questioned by the police regarding his bird watching. He was at a location where it's a kind of reserve where you'd walk around to various viewing points and have a look at which can be some birds or nothing as you walk around. And he'd literally just got out of the car in the car park having arrived. I'm just driven a short distance. He's an elderly gentleman, so probably the distance to the reserve would have probably been a little bit much. But he walked to the viewing mound with his telescope, set his telescope up, and noticed a police car come into the car park, parked near his car. And the policeman got straight out the car and walked across and basically said to him, "What are you doing?" To which he said, "I'm, kind of just looking at the birds and doing my daily exercise." He said, "You're not doing exercise because you're bird watching, and bird watching isn't exercise." So the chap said, "Well, I come out, to exercise and walk, and also find this good for my mental health and well-being." And the policeman said, "Well, you can't do it. You're not exercising." He said, "Well, if I'm walking as well and I'm exercising, am I not?" And he said, "Well, no." He said, asked him about his tripod, and said, "Well, and said that's really for standing. It's not for walking. And so you're not actually moving." And so then he asked him where he was from. And he said he was just from a location about a mile away from that place. And the policeman actually said, "If you were any further away than that, I would have found you." And so he then felt he needed to go home, and appropriately so. So quite a shocking encounter, really, that and actually the gentleman rang me to try and get word out to other bird watchers that this may be a new approach that the police are taking. So we tried to get that message around the society, but really, as I say, it was a personal contact to me from where it came. And I put on my Twitter feed about it. Basically, if you are considering bird watching to be your exercise, keep moving, because on that encounter of being stopped there, then it was a problem to that police officer. There's been lots of replies. I've had over 1,000 interactions with that particular post. And I did actually say, let's not make this a kind of a shouting match or, be disrespectful and that kind of thing. And similarly tonight, feedback on this. We'd be interested in people's thoughts and feelings, but let's keep it gracious and respectful, and also recognizing that it's difficult for the police. One of the police members of the rural police team actually got in touch with me via Twitter, and he said that we are having to try and interpret the rules given out by the government, and it's not clear to us what they are, let alone bird watchers and others. And so we're trying to do our best, which I'm sure they are. But it's interesting because going back to March in the first lockdown, we had a bit of a situation in the society, didn't we? And a dialogue over the Yahoo group,
Yep.
Where things kind of became a little bit, I don't know, kind of people had a difference of opinion, didn't they, on the rules then? Yep. I think that actually really came down to the fact that one minister, Michael Gove for one, said, "Oh, your exercise on one occasion is to be 1 hour." And then in the rules, it didn't actually stipulate that. And we were in a situation which I actually wrote a comment to, and I said, in reality, looking at the rules then, you could actually justify driving all the way to Norfolk, 2 hours from where I live and 2 hours back, as long as I birdwatch for 7 hours, because one of the guidance within the rules was that your exercise should be longer than the traveling to get there. And I know, and I think everybody out there, and we would know, that is just irrational, that kind of a trip. But it does make it difficult when, again, that particular gentleman I'm talking about was actually questioned as to why he drove to the spot, and he should have walked. But it is difficult. Where I am, down in East Tilbury, lots of people drive down to Coalhouse Fort to exercise there, and you've got people doing all kinds of things. And then the other situation that came up was about anglers and people who shoot as well. But yeah, I've spent 3 days in dialogue with the police, member of the police, and also some other advisors and contacts that I'm able to glean from. And basically, in overview, it seems the PC Constable of Essex has actually gone on record that he would like his officers to apply guidance where possible, where there isn't a clear breach of the rules. Other forces have actually gone a different way and are actually implementing fines. And Yorkshire yesterday fined over 100 people, not for bird watching, but from similar things, in similar activities. And so our Essex Constabulary are trying to take more of a softly appointed term of guidance. But it really is down to every particular police officer to interpret the rules as they see them at that particular point. So, if you do consider bird watching within the guidelines and you go, then please, let's try and be fair-minded and reasonable and not make it difficult for the police. Talking to the rural police officer last night, we were dialoguing and we thought we'd come to some kind of guidance that I could bring today, and that was really, if you have binoculars, first of all and foremost, you're there for a walk. We're not talking about let's cut out the absolute definite no-nos. There's no overnighting, there's no groups and people that you're not actually in a bubble with at home or whatever, meeting up. Those are no-nos. They are not according to the rules as read. That's my opinion. I'm sure it would be the police's. Well, it is. It's been expressed to me. But that I'm giving you what definitely is my opinion and fact on it. So those two factors, and then the other thing is you're not there to. You don't exercise in extended time in one place. You have to be moving, and so if you are considering going out bird watching, your first and foremost is there to be on a walk. You're walking, and then it may be reasonable to stop and look at something as somebody would look at a view, or pause, within exercise to just take a rest. But really, anything more than that, and as I said last night to the police officer, my advice would be, if you are out and you want to stop, you're talking a few minutes and definitely not hours, stood in a particular place, not in hides and things like that. And I think most of them are closed. But the other situation is the distance. Again, there is no stipulation, and that's making it very, very difficult in terms of how many miles you can travel, what situations you can travel in and whatever. But on the whole, the feeling I'm getting from Essex Police is they really want people to go from home on foot wherever possible. It keeps traffic off the roads, which certainly down our way is more of an issue. There's 10 times the amount of traffic here than there was in the lockdown one. And obviously it's less accidents. We've got ice coming and bad weather. And so, it just takes all that risk out and also gives the police more time to do other type situations. But there is good news, actually, that through the dialogue, we actually have an invitation to be more involved as birders and as a society, potentially, should the society wish. And I certainly, personally, will be assisting and have offered to assist in this with the rural police in terms of reporting and looking out for matters of rural crime. And if you do actually see an incident happening, they do want you to call 999 straight away if it's actually happening. If not, then and it's a situation that you've come across, then call 111, and on anything that looks different or looks unlike it should, then they want that reporting, and that'll be on the 111. And also any intelligence that you glean as you're out, if you see something suspicious or anything like that, they would appreciate that. And let's hope that from this, actually a relationship is better. Unfortunately, today I decided I felt for my own location I ought to ring Grays police station and ask them what their advice is to me. My father-in-law actually, a couple of weeks ago, after the Derbyshire incident that was well reported, rang his local police station to find out whether he could visit a country park on the edge of the town where he lived, and they said absolutely you can drive there and walk around, and got permission on that. It kind of, I'm going to call Grays and find out what their feeling is. And I was told specifically there that bird watching is not exercise in the opinion of the policeman in Grays there, the advisor on the desk. And that he actually said, if I'm seen out with my telescope and binoculars, I do risk being fined. And so that was a bit of a shock to me this morning, and basically kind of unscrambled some of the things I've been dialoguing with, because before we were just down to the issue of telescopes. Standing behind a telescope is a problem in terms of exercise, and you can easily say, yeah, okay, well, if I was stood on one leg in a new yoga position, that I'm going to write to the Yoga Society and say I want to call it the Abaset. But you can say all the different things, but yoga is yoga and bird watching is another thing. And standing behind a tripod with a telescope or a camera for photographers, because a lot of photographers came in on the conversation, is not deemed by certainly the Grays police advisor there as exercise. So be aware, and let's be wise.
Yeah, well said, Steve. Yeah, well said.
Yeah, absolutely. I think let's just all be safe. Let's just all do the right thing. At the end of the day, the birds will still be there in the summer and next winter. Let's make sure we all are, and let's just make sure we're following the rules. Stay local, go out for a walk, and just be careful and be safe.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think there was one point that really resonated, because it was actually raised by the police as well, that would actually, I felt from what they were saying, would help them as well as help us. And they said, they asked me, what are the RSPB saying, or the Wildlife Trust saying about it? Because there was a situation that angling was actually stated that it wasn't allowed, but the ACA, which is the body that represents anglers, went to the government, and it actually was overturned. And so I've actually contacted the RSPB and the BTO today and asked them whether they are actually making any approach to the government with regard to whether bird watching is an exercise, and or whether they have made any approach to the government on behalf of their members. Particularly, I know the RSPB more recently has gone, more broad nature type front than just bird watching, but I've also asked the BTO that, and I think at this particular time that could be one of the ways that we actually come out of this with clarity. The other situation is the newspapers are hovering, and I've been approached by a particular national newspaper who have informed me that they have asked Essex Police for a statement on the incident, and we're awaiting, myself and the police officer I've been dialoguing with, a particular statement from Essex Police, and hopefully that may bring clarity as well. So look out for that. If I see it, in fact, actually, I'll probably be emailed it, then I'll make that known to everybody, and we'll maybe be clear on how we should go on. But just, guys, let's try and, be wise, but also try and remain sane in this challenging time of lockdown. It is really dragging for many of us, I think, at this particular moment. But There we go. Anyway, let's move on. What should we talk about now, guys?
Well, I was just going to say, actually, it does give you a chance to get better at identifying stuff without telescopes and binoculars. So maybe improve your calls and so on.
Good time.
You know,
Aren't they?
yeah, picking birds up on distance and jeers and flocks and that kind of thing.
And maybe what you're doing, Steve, you're going for longer walks now, aren't you? Kind of.
Yeah. So what I've done, obviously, we're based here in Colchester, on the edge of Colchester. So I've set up a 5-kilometre radius of the house, and I'm just walking along public footpaths to places that I've not been to for years. You know, and okay, I'm seeing a few birds, but I'm just going out enjoying a walk, bit of fresh air, clear your mind, you know, from stuff going on. And yeah, you can find some really good gems of local patches.
Do you want to tell the guys that story you told us the other night about the chap who from the city is working at home and found some rather special birds?
I don't remember that.
Not the area. Well, they look a bit like that.
Yes. Yeah, a friend of mine.
As a clue.
Yeah, friend. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, okay.
Was it Batman?
Yeah, like Batman. Yeah, a friend of mine was out going for a walk locally and came across some long-eared owls, which was really nice. So, and I say, you know, your local patch, there's got to be these birds out there.
Yeah.
Now's a good chance to discover new sites.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I can drag myself out of bed early enough one morning, I don't live far from Highwoods Country Park, and I'm thinking if I go traipsing around there in the morning and go to maybe the parts that people don't go to that much, I might be able to flush a woodcock or something.
Absolutely.
You know, I've had a few tree creepers. I had 6 great spotted woodpeckers in there the other day, drumming away. So early drumming, and there was 2 chasing each other around the treetops and calling. So even just, you know, staying local and looking at the common stuff, it's great. It's really good fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
that's good. Good. Well, have we any feedback, Matt, that you want to share, or should we go straight into Simon? We've got Simon Wood coming up.
We have. Yeah, I mean, I think Neil Sumner has just made a comment. He's put, good summary, Steve, and thanks for pursuing this on behalf of all birders. Not the news we wanted and seems unfair to us birders, but you have explained it, and from the police's perspective too. So thanks. Yeah, I mean, you know, everyone wants to go out. Of course we do. You know, we all want to, I want to go to the cinema. I want to go to the theatre. I want to go out for a meal. I want to go birding. But at the moment, we just can't do these things. And I think we've all just got to accept it. And hopefully, if we all stick to these rules, they won't be there forever. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Certainly, bits I'm reading, the virus is possibly starting to flatten and regress. I heard news, and we can get that going for another few weeks. Maybe we'll come March, end of March, we'll be looking at more possibilities. Let's hope so.
Jenny's just made quite a valid comment. Actually, she said, should the police be talking to the BBC about Winter Watch, encouraging people to watch birds? I must confess, I haven't watched Winter Watch yet, so I don't know what they've been saying, and I don't know whether they've been encouraging people, but it's a valid point.
That is a really good, valid point, because somebody from my WhatsApp group, actually Adrian, let me read what he said, because I shared this obviously with my local birding WhatsApp group, so the guys would know what the situation was. And Adrian said, yeah, on the BBC on Winter Watch, they seem to be encouraging people to watch wildlife on permitted walks. And so again, maybe if the RSPB, BTO, Spring Watch, Winter Watch can get together and, you know, put some guidelines in terms of, yeah, you know, take your bins, but this is what you do, you know, in terms of don't be stopping groups and all that. So it's clear. And then the police can also know, and everybody knows, and it can be one less headache for them.
That's the thing. I mean, you know, I've got Ardea Reservoir, again, slightly further away from me, but it's walking distance, and it's also on my way to work. So I'll quite frequently walk round the part of the reservoir that I'm allowed to, and you can walk round, walk back again, and I'm on the move, but I'm still watching, listening, and you can still watch and observe the wildlife while you're having your exercise. You can do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's maybe what we should be doing.
Good point, Matt.
Also, the other thing I was going to say with Winter Watch as well is you could look at it the other way. You could say it's giving people that are stuck at home the opportunity to still watch wildlife, albeit through their television. So you could flip it that way.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And to just kind of, for those of you that, kind of are viewing and maybe not birders and just kind of, wondering kind of how significant this can be to bird watchers. There's some bird watchers, a friend of mine here, who's been watching a particular area for 20 to 30 years. And every week, other than when he's on holiday, he will actually come down on one particular day over the weekend and spend 3 or 4 hours looking at the birds, counting them, and has got that history and can literally, you talk to him and he can tell you when the last time a certain species or, how many of this particular species were here kind of 5 years ago. And on that record side of things, and that actually can be incredibly valuable data. That's a real effort. And for somebody like that, and that particular person, I won't name him, but for the whole of the lockdown in March, he didn't visit because he lives probably 3-4 miles away from that location, maybe 5. He didn't feel it was appropriate, even though he could, within the rules, so to speak. He didn't feel it was right or appropriate for him to do that, and he stayed, in his own neighbourhood and area. So hats off to him and to anybody else, particularly, I'm blessed to be down here on the marshes, and I can walk out and see things, but I know many others can't. And so, big shout out to you that are in that type of situation more so, or dedicated to a place and really kind of having to give that up for the time being. Right.
Just before we bring Simon in, I've got a few texts here from Jerry Johnson, the chairman of the society.
Hi, Jerry.
So hello, Jerry. He said that gaiters are a good idea and keep you warm in cold weather, and they're very easy to wash when you get home. So I'm sure Steve can pick that up.
Thanks, Jerry.
Mine are hanging up covered in mud.
And he's also asked me to remind people that we're going to have a new range of forest green and navy blue sweatshirts. So the sweatshirt I'm wearing now, this is I think it's a charcoal grey, they called it. But we've got green and navy blue coming through. They're going to be with us at the end of February, and they're just £25 each, plus postage if you want us to send them out to you. And if anyone wants a sweatshirt, if you send your details to the email address that I gave out, which is ebwstalks@gmail.com, and then we'll get in touch with you and tell you how you can order the sweatshirt. And finally, from Jerry, he's just made a comment, and I think this is where we'll leave this. Bird watching should be considered as mental therapy and is very important to many people during these difficult times. And I do agree with that.
Thanks, Jerry. Yeah, amen to that, mate. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, good.
Right, where's Simon?
So,
let's let Simon in.
Just quickly, we've also got a new member, Tim Haywood, that's watching tonight. So good evening, Tim.
Oh, hey, hi, Tim.
Hope you're enjoying it so far.
And also on the YouTube, I got a message saying we've just had our last couple of days, our 100th subscriber to our YouTube channel.
Wow.
Who was Satch Boogie. And Satch Boogie, you know what Satch Boogie is, Steve? You ever heard Joe Satriani?
Yeah.
Oh, what a guitarist. Well, Joe Satriani is very much dear to my heart. And so I get that Satch Boogie. You're kind of, spot on the right person to be our 100th subscriber, because I went straight to play the Satch Boogie. So, thanks for that. And anybody else as well, please subscribe. If you haven't, got a YouTube account, maybe you want to, sign up for one, you can use your Gmail type account, Google account. So it's all one. You don't have to remember 2 passwords that way, but please subscribe. And then you'll find out what's happening, ahead of time. And as soon as we put anything up, you'll be notified if you hit the bell type icon. So that's all good. Good.
Right. Just before we bring Simon in, there's one thing that I've forgotten to do. I do apologise.
You can see Simon.
It's this.
He's probably fallen asleep.
Yeah, bring Simon in. Bring
Come
Simon
on,
in.
Matt. You're missing your cue.
Yeah, I know. Terrible. Basically, it's competition. So I'm going to leave that on the screen for just a few seconds, and I want everyone to have a look at that. And I have, believe it or not, counted every single bird on the screen by putting a dot on every single one on Microsoft Paint. So I probably do need to get out more. maybe not at the moment. And I know exactly how many there are. So if anyone wants to have a guess, and we'll see if we can maybe get a badge or something out to somebody, to whoever's closest, sorry. So we can't take part because we all know what it is. But yeah, if anyone out there wants to put it in the YouTube chat or on text or email, please get involved because it's just a little bit of fun.
Just remind people of those numbers, Matt, as you
So the email is ebwstalks@gmail.com. The text number is 07930 530044, and the Twitter for tonight is @EBwS tweets. And of course, if you've got a YouTube subscription, you can get involved by taking part in the YouTube chat on the channel.
Cool.
Let me stop sharing and let's see if Simon's asleep.
Anyone there?
He doesn't know whether he's coming or going.
He comes. Hey!
Hey, Simon.
We woke him up.
You woke me up. I've just had a coffee liqueur and I'd fallen asleep.
Good evening.
Good to see you, mate.
Good evening.
Good. How you doing?
Oh, I'm all right. I'm all right. Yes.
Good,
yeah.
Good.
Been watching the performance so far. Very good.
Some performance, mate. That's what you're on for.
Oh dear.
Good. So have you got those pictures that Simon sent in, Steve, or do I need to do that?
Yep, just give me a secondo.
I've got a couple I'm going to share myself, and
so there's the first one.
So yeah,
I wonder who that is.
who's that?
Who do you reckon that is?
So I was going to ask you, Simon, how did you start birding?
Well, as you can see from that, it just happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I picked up a pair of binoculars. I think, I don't know how old I was, but looking at it, I'm probably no more than about 2. And it just went from there. And from then to this day, I have invariably carried a pair of binoculars. That set did become, I think, my first pair. And then I got a new pair when I was about 15. I got a pair of big old East German Zeisses. And then it, just went from there. But I've always birded. And I don't know how I got into it. I had a couple of relations who were quite interested in the birds, an uncle and a grandfather, but they were never really into it like I was, but it was there and it just happened. I'm
looking at them binoculars and they're proper binoculars, mate. I had to start with 2 Smarty tubes.
I think they were, those ones were Russian or East German. I vaguely recall. I think they were probably ex-World War II and had been taken off of some very unfortunate person during the war, I think. Okay,
because then so you were picking up binoculars by the looks before you could stand. Is that right?
Pretty much. It was about the same time, and I could have also shown you a photo of me feeding chaffinches, and I think that was at Longleap or somewhere like that.
Okay.
And chaffinches were as nearly big as me as well. So
did you write this when you were at school then?
Yeah, when I was 12, I did that.
I was going to say, this is the Birds of Essex, and it's quite a turn. Have you got your copy there, boys?
Has everyone got their copy?
Got it.
Mine's behind me somewhere, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's good because
it's a proper textbook, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not only a good read or a dip in and read, it's really handy for allowing you to get to the top shelf books that you got, because it gives you another foot, I think.
And tell us about this picture, Simon.
Well, this shows, this is sort of trying to depict the fact that the society, although it was founded in 1949, July 1949, I think it was actually founded, but this just little run of books actually shows that recording of birds was going on before the society. So back in 1890, the left-hand most read book, that was written by a chap called Miller Christie, who was a high flyer, for want of a better description, in the Essex Field Club. And this was one of the books he wrote. After him, it was to be not until 1929 that William Glegg, who was also the first president of the society, I think I've got that right, He wrote that 1929. Then we come along, we have to go a bit further along to 1968 when Jeff Pyman and Bob Hudson wrote the middle book, A Guide to the Birds of Essex. And then we all know Simon Cox. He wrote the new Guide to the Birds of Essex in 1984. And of course, my little tome was 2007. So it shows that for many, many years, bird recording has been going on in Essex. I mean, in the Victorian era, it was very much with the gun. You know, what's hit is history, what's missed is mystery, they used to say. So a lot of the early records were of specimens, mounted specimens, this sort of thing. But of course, the society comes along, 1949. Things have been changing for a long while by then, and it's all down to what we do today, pretty much.
So tell me, kind of, you know, going back to basics, what's the motivation of recording? Why should a person, you know, kind of record birds? Well,
ultimately, it is to produce the data to protect particular sites. I mean, we're all familiar these days with the fact that there's a lot of pressure on development of anywhere, as we see. You can see the threats to Minsmere from Sizewell outside the county, or even at Bradwell in the county. So the collection of data, in essence, is the recording of the birds. Without that, how do you prove that a site is worth protecting? So that is the absolute basic premise for recording. I mean, there is the other side of it as well, is we're all naturally interested in the birds anyway, and it's nice to be able to record what you see on your patch or when you go further afield. So it is a twofold thing, but ultimately it's that need to protect sites, and it becomes more necessary as the years go by, I think.
Yeah. I'm guessing now, would I be right in saying also to protect species as well? Is
individual species? Yes. I mean, it's a funny one, because a lot of our species are protected for say under Schedule 1 of the Wildlife and Countryside Act, yet their habitat isn't. I mean, so although yes, certainly they are protected, where they're living might not be. But if you can prove categorically that as an important site for that species, you've got more of a chance of saving it.
And so from there, we come to this, which is the Essex Bird Report, which has just been released and published. I've had mine. I think Matt's is still in the envelope.
Sorry, I was typing. There you go. Well, I'll put that on, but I can't.
Should we swap, Steve? Steve G?
Go on then.
Okay, go on then, mate. Can I have yours, Simon?
Hang on. I'll put up to you there.
That's great.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Unbelievable. Give me the old one.
I was giving you the old, yeah.
But there's
the old ones are the best.
So how does this come into being? Kind of, you know, a person reports a sighting. Tell us how they report a sighting.
Right.
How he actually.
Okay. Well, I'll come to the different platforms for recording things in a moment, because I think that's a separate thing entirely. But in essence, all of the records that people produce in Essex over the course of a year, by a means that we'll come to in a minute, makes its way to our county recorder, Mick Tracy, who does this amazing job of distilling, sorting all this data, making sure it's all consistent, because you've got places like Abberton Reservoir have about 20 different names. So you've got to sort it out and everything like that. So Mick does an awful lot of work on the Excel files with that at the moment. Once he's done that, he chunks it up into sections of data and sends that to the sub-editors of the bird reports. And then those sub-editors effectively distill that all down into the texts we all see in the bird report. Right. So that's basically what happens. It sounds it is a relatively simple format, really, but there's just an awful lot of work in it, and a lot of knowledge as well is required put that all together.
And we must be talking about tons of data. Kind of what kind of numbers?
I
records
think
are we
we're
talking
about 250,000 records a year.
250,000 records of birds throughout
Yeah.
Essex. That somebody,
Around Essex, yeah,
Phenomenal.
250,000.
and that's going into this.
That goes into that. So what that, in essence, we produce one of them every year, and that is what's used effectively by modern day authors to produce the Essex avifaunas. Is what I used.
Can I just say, sorry, this cover, I know it's just a picture and the data inside is far more important, but I absolutely love this cover. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
it was one of those. Sean Nixon and I go through. Sean gets all the artwork together, and we looked at various photos, and I think we'd chosen something else initially, but I cannot remember why we had to change it. And I suddenly saw this one that he put forward, and I said, "That's brilliant." And we went for it. And I should mention that the photographer was Simon Cox. And it's not absolutely crisp. It's just got a subtle fuzziness to it that I think actually adds to it.
Yeah.
It's just a brilliant cover. Cover. So it worked very well. So thank you, Simon.
So in terms of recording, we announced last time that people were encouraging people to record on an app and a website platform that the British Trust for Ornithology, otherwise known as the BTO, a run called BirdTrack, and that data now feeds into our Essex Birdwatching Society records.
Yeah.
But historically, people have and can still send paper records.
People can send paper in if they so require, so need to. I mean, it's fully understood that not everyone's conversant with a computer. So if you do still want to send paper records in, by all means do. Another way to send records in is an Excel file. And if you get in touch with the county recorder again, Mick Tracy, he can provide you with a blank so that at least it comes in a standard format. The other way that people are putting it in is eBirder. It's a newer, well, perhaps it isn't. I don't know exactly whether. I think it did come after BirdTrack. I may be corrected on that by someone, but
I think it's new here, isn't it? It was in the USA, but they've broadened.
It's an American one. That's it.
Yeah.
And worldwide, it's got a fantastic spread. The data that it produces is phenomenal. But in this country, BirdTrack seems to work a lot better for us. That's not to say as time goes along, we'll get better and more conversant with eBirder. So, it really is anyone's choice. At the moment, we prefer BirdTrack.
Now, looking at this, Simon, there's been some changes, hasn't there? There's changes to names of birds.
Yeah.
And, stuff that I knew as a kid is now, red-throated diver's become loony and all kinds of different stuff. What's going on with that? What's the reasons behind that?
Oh, I mean, I could waffle for hours on this.
2 minutes. 1 o'clock.
3 letters, DNA. What's happening a lot particularly is there's a lot of work being done on DNA and bird systematics, basically what is related to what family-wise. And what that's doing is completely drawing our understanding of relationships between families. So a lot of you will probably notice that you go, this bird report, you start with the game birds, and I've got to remember this now, then you go through the ducks, but then you'll all be surprised to hear you hit nightjar and swifts. Now that was a surprise when I read that, and I know that Mr. Sweeney there was completely confused by it when he read it.
I thought the publisher had made a mistake, and I nearly went back to the editor and said, "What's going on? I've got a dodgy one."
So there's a lot of this going on, and behind it all as well is the fact that there's been a lot of changes to English bird names. The Latin names are changing a lot because of these changes in relationships and understandings. But what has been happening over the last few years is a desire to standardize English bird names because English is a worldwide understood language. A lot of these birds have got English names, and everyone's been keen to try and standardise them. So what we do now have is the BOURC, which are the British Ornithologists Union, their recording committee, which is the RC on the BOU, now use the IOC, which isn't the Olympic Committee, it's the Ornithologists Committee.
Is it international? Is that the I?
International is the
Right,
I,
yeah.
yeah. So it's International Ornithologists Committee. They use their world list. And in that world list, the world bird names include loon for diver. I've always preferred loon for diver, so I was actually quite keen on that. Now, these name changes are a little controversial, and we've had a few. We had an issue a couple of years, 18 months, 2 years back, when these names were used in Essex birding. And I think the decision, it was accepted that perhaps we'd made an error with that, and we've gone back to using good old-fashioned.
In here, what I noticed, you put in brackets the more traditional name, which I think is great. That's really helped me, and it's helping me bridge the two and take that journey. So commend you for that.
You only have to look a bit further back in older books, and you had hedger centres, you had sheldrakes. Well, now we have dunnocks and shelduck. So, you know, names change.
Yeah, they do.
We get used to them.
Yeah, good. Wanted to talk to you about lists. Now, I put a black swan on my list a few years ago when I was, and somebody said, "Oh, you can't have that. That can't go. That doesn't count." So, it's a new year. Everybody's starting their list for the year if they do that kind of thing. But what's going on with these kind of lists?
Right. At the end of the day, I'll start with saying what's on your list is entirely up to you.
That's good for me.
So, but, and it is a but, there is an official British list. And again, that is maintained by the British Ornithologists Union and is managed by their recording committee. Now, that is an official list of all the birds that have been recorded in a wild state in Britain. So those are generally in what is called category A. There are other categories for introduced species that breed sustainably. So pheasant, little owl, they are recognised.
Canada goose, would that be in?
Canada goose is, that's there. But then you've got a couple of categories where you've got category D is those species that at the moment we feel are probably escapes, but you can't entirely rule out them being truly wild birds. Okay. And then you've got category E's, which are just escape birds.
Is there anywhere you could recommend, online or a book, if people wanted to know more about that? What would be the best?
I mean, the best place is probably either the British Ornithologists Union website. There's a lot about the British list there, or the British Birds Rarities Committee website.
Excellent. So if you are wanting to know more about that tonight, and it's maybe new to you as it was to me a few years ago, I thought, what is this? Who's to tell me? Then have a read of that.
The general rule is that those birds in A, B and C you can tick, have on your British list. Those in D and E you can't, and black swan is not in A, B and C.
Now, the other thing I wanted to cover with you is, if as a beginner intermediate birder, you're out when we can go out, and you see something, a bird that you don't recognize, and you have a look at your little field guide or your book or your phone and something, and it's a rare one. It really looks like a rarity, as it would be called. What would you advise that person so they don't, like I did, call a common scoter a widgeon?
Well,
or a widgeon a common scoter.
Yeah.
No, what scoter I think it was.
I mean, I think probably what I'd say is don't be afraid of getting something wrong. I think that's the important thing. All of us here get birds wrong on a daily basis, and the best thing is to just accept you do it. So I think if you're a relative newcomer and you're out, you think you got something rare, I would suggest, I mean, initially, if you're out birding, hopefully you might have a notepad with you, take some notes. If you've got a camera, however poor the photo might be, take a photo, but then try and get in touch with someone who's a more regular birder, several people, see if you can get someone down. That's probably all I can say. You know, that I've got them wrong regularly.
Good advice.
Don't worry about getting it wrong. It's all part of the learning curve. And as far as birding's concerned, you'll always be learning. So,
because some birds, and there's a list of them, I think the list of what needs description is certainly on the website, if not in the current issue. Because some of the rarer birds, you're actually looking for people to actually write a little bit about and describe the bird, just to kind of ratify that it, you know, is likely that it was that bird. Yeah.
That's right. You basically got two categories for in Essex, if you like. You've got those that are really, really rare on a national basis, and they would go to the British Birds Rarities Committee. And then you've got those that are not rare really on a national basis, but they are rare or very scarce in Essex. And they would come through to an identification panel that the Birdwatching Society has. Steve G and I are on a panel that looks at these and basically decides whether the record is proven or unproven. It's not whether right or wrong, it's just whether it's proven or unproven. I think annually it varies, the number of records, probably 100 plus, but of those, less than 2 to 4% ever get considered not proven. So it's a very low rate. But we're just keen for people to get those notes in. There's a worrying reluctance these days of putting pen to paper. I think in part it's the notebook seems to have slowly disappeared. I don't know how you change that. Yeah,
I guess the ideal is if someone's, you know, able to get a camera, maybe in the future one of these will talk about the camera equipment and stuff like that that's available, and then
camera is
get a snap of it.
I mean,
even from something distant, it can be just that tipping point. But yeah, it is that particular.
Well, case in point today, out for a short walk with me camera over my shoulder. I just went, oh, there's a black brant. Well, all I've got to do, as I did, was snap a photo of it. I don't then need to put in a description. I send that in, show that to Steve. He goes, oh yeah, it's a black brant, and it's done.
Brilliant. That's good. Couple more things before you go. You're the editor of this.
Yeah.
And I know the long-standing members of the society would want me to publicly thank you for the work you've done in the last few years in bringing it right back on track, because we were quite 3 or 4 years behind the curve, so to speak, for numerous reasons. And I've, you know, a little bit late to the party, but I've observed that, and commendable effort, Simon.
Thank you.
And I know that we're now looking for a new editor that you're planning to stand down. So again, make the pitch. What kind of person are we looking for, and someone's interested in it? How do they go about making the first step to talk to you about it, maybe? And you know,
I think you've got to be someone who is knowledgeable on a reasonable basis about the birds of Essex. You've got to have a reasonable understanding of what is common, what isn't. Then you've got to have an eye for detail. I think you've got to have that ability to focus on getting all those separate texts in from the sub-editors, weaving them, well, not weaving them all together, but putting them all together, and then checking everything sits together. Being able to liaise with people, chase with people. It's not an onerous task. It's just something you've just got to keep on. You can't let things slide. You've got to put a timetable in place and this sort of thing. If you put your timetable in place, people do it. I mean, the sub-editors, the writers, they're brilliant. You know, they do a great job.
Yeah.
And they make my life a lot easier. I think
we do have these sub-editors as well. So maybe if somebody does have that kind of level of expertise and is available, there might be a role for them as a sub-editor or partnering with somebody.
Yeah.
We're into training people and developing people in those particular skills, and we need them, don't we?
We certainly do. Yeah. We certainly could do with more sub-editors at the moment as well, yeah.
Cool. Well, before you go, I wanted to share something with you. Because as I say, you know, fantastic book, but what, 13, 14 years?
Yeah.
So I've heard that it's due a reissue at the very least. So I thought I just share the screen on it, on the picture here. We've got the original,
Yeah.
which I think is great. I love the fact you've snuck in a little. Have you got that picture, guys?
Yep.
And a little. Have you noticed the red-breasted goose, guys? There. Anybody noticed that? He snuck a little red-breasted goose on the photo. Is that right, Simon?
That is correct. Yeah, I asked Alan Harris to put that in.
Yeah. Well, I thought, obviously, it's time for a new edition. And I thought from what you shared last time with, I know you want something sky, you know, and with these.
That was
again.
That was a cracking shot. That was
cranes. Cranes from the garden.
Yeah.
But then I thought, obviously, they're a little bit distant, so I'll probably need some cranes that are a little bit nearer.
Yeah.
And maybe we kind of
yeah.
do something more up to date.
Trouble is that aren't they outside the county, those ones?
No, they're well in.
Oh, they're your ones.
Those are a couple of miles, and they're new as well. So
they're the new ones.
Because I wanted to keep it current, you know.
Yeah.
So I thought if we go there, we're current, aren't we?
That looks good. That's very current. Yeah.
That job.
That looks so different when you look at it like that.
Well, you've done the cover, Steve, so you just got to write the book now.
Yeah, he's offered already, isn't he?
Yeah, he started.
He's well on his way.
But no, there's a bit of a story there, isn't there? A little segue with those cattle egret.
Yeah.
First time they bred.
Yeah, last year.
This year, and the full story is in here.
Yeah, 2019.
So, how do people get hold of a copy of Birds of Essex?
Birds of Essex is, I think it is probably out of print now. You can buy Kindle type electronic versions, or you can get secondhand copies. It may be that some places still have it in stock. But yeah, it's worth trying any book dealer. Because as I say, 14 years this year since it was.
I found that, Simon.
Hey?
I found this today.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Oh, where's all my hair gone?
You, Simon.
We all look younger.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the book launch at Rain and Marshes, if you remember.
Yeah, I remember that.
Brilliant.
Funny enough, I've got that picture somewhere.
Yeah, I was just happening to look through some photos today, and I thought, oh, I remember that.
Wow. Wow.
All a bit younger.
A bit younger, yeah, somewhat younger.
I reckon my copy came from there because I had to buy one second hand. And when it came through, it was signed by you two and Nick. So
excellent.
Yeah, fantastic.
I keep meaning to bring mine to get signed, but then when I looked, I thought I better not because it's got a library ticket in the back. So
he's nicked another one.
I didn't. I bought it on the Amazon, but somebody else.
Someone else said.
Before you go, Simon, Jerry sent a text in. He's just said he wants to thank you on behalf of the society for all the excellent work you've done in getting the report up to date, and also thanking all the sub editors as well. They've done a fabulous job. And Andy Goody has put on the YouTube chat that don't forget. Well, I think we were talking about bird track and paper records and Excel spreadsheets. Of course, on our website, EBwS.org.uk, you can enter sightings on the website, and it's a really good website, and it's a really good way of getting the sightings directly to the society.
Yeah,
that's the way I do it. Yeah.
I also had a quick question actually as well. So, obviously, Black Swan category D. If they become self-sustaining and approved to breed, could they move up a category, or is that never likely to happen? How does that work?
Black Swan is category E.
Oh, sorry, E. Sorry.
Yeah. That would, in theory, if I'm just trying to think of one that's done it. Oh, blimey! Ruddy Duck did it. That was category E, and that went up to category C, and he's still in category C technically. So yeah, if a self-sustaining population was formed, then yes, they would move up. Yeah.
Oh.
That might be interesting as well, just to kind of share something I didn't know until we chatted the other day about the legal implications of the list.
Yeah. I mean, in essence, it isn't just maintained for the fun of it. The the BOU official British list is used for legal reasons. It is required to know what is on the British list for the wildlife and countryside type legislation that is altered and amended as and when. I mean, the one that is used at the moment is the 1981, I think, but then it's all with all subsequent amendments. So yeah, you do have to have an official list. It is important. So, you know, you could again we could go into a lot of detail about that, but we won't here. We won't.
Yeah.
Sure. And when lockdown's finished, if I go to Abberton and see a goosander, can I tick goosander and common merganser and have 2 ticks?
You can if you want to confuse yourself.
What worries me is that Steve's going to be up Colchester Zoo ticking all those birds.
Well, we had guinea fowl, didn't we? Last was it the
No,
guinea fowl?
Jerry says guinea fowl's okay. That's right.
Oh, okay.
Jerry,
Okay.
isn't it? Yeah.
Category E.
Oh, crikey. Desperation.
Brilliant. What about Jenny's asked? What about red-crested potchard? Do you know what category that is?
They are in C, because I'm pretty sure they're C. That is a good question, but I'm pretty sure they're C, possibly A as well, because
Okay.
I think that genuine ones have also occurred that they believe. So it's A and C. It gets quite complicated because there's subgroups within the categories as well.
Right. Okay.
I see that I saw this morning or yesterday that they're going to review all the ruddy shell duck.
Ruddy shell ducks, yes. They want all records between 1999 and currently, and also 1994 when there was a huge influx. So yeah, if you want to get your ruddy shell duck into category A, it's currently in D.
Yep.
Oh no, it's in B as well. Is it on B?
Certainly in D. I'm just reading the bird report. Which is
I'm just trying to remember myself. Can't remember whether it's category B or not.
Yeah, we should have done the homework, really, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
We should have done, really. Well, it's knowing which species are going to come up. That's not easy in a conversation. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No.
I'm just sitting here riding on the back of a swan.
Let me just see if there's any more messages or texts. Hold on one
Good. You
second.
got anything else, Matt?
I don't think so. Steve, is there anything on the Twitter feed or Facebook?
Nothing for Simon, I don't think yet.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I'm good as well.
Good. Well, thanks, Simon. And
There was one other thing we did talk about, which was the predictions. Are you doing
yes,
that?
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, as I've asked Steve,
Yeah.
what the prediction is during the big county bird watch, and Steve kind of bagged red flank bluetail as he reckoned probably the next species to be seen in the
It was
county.
interesting.
Is that right, Steve?
Well, that's what I thought. And I
Yeah.
thought last autumn was going to be the year that one was found. And
It
didn't
wasn't.
happen. So
So
Well,
what
I
do you think, Simon? Next new
it's
species
interesting.
for Essex.
Yeah, I look back to a paper I did in 1995 on the rare birds of Essex, and I made 10 predictions then of what would turn up in Essex soon. You know, soon was a bit like that. Interestingly, one of them was great white egret. So how things have changed.
Very good.
But of those 10, 4 still haven't turned up. Thrush nightingale, pied wheatear, river warbler, and Sardinian warbler. But completely off the radar then was Steve's red flank bluetail.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, oh, blimey, what else is there that could turn up other than red flank bluetail that I've missed? Because those 4 could turn up. But I had a think, and I think it's a seabird. I don't know whether any of you are going to guess this.
okay.
I'll narrow it down quickly now. It's a loon.
Oh,
It's what we call white-billed diver.
white-billed diver.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
going to say, what? Yeah.
I think there is a chance of white-billed diver
Mm.
being the next one.
Mm.
I may get proved wrong, but because I think there's a lot more likelihood of red flank bluetail, but we've been saying that for donkey's years. That
Yeah.
it's going to be red flank bluetail.
Wasn't
It just
there
hasn't happened. It's crazy.
wasn't there a speculative sighting that wasn't confirmed off of Frinton? I think Paul might have had a large diver that looked
He
pale
did.
bill, but he couldn't confirm it.
No.
Yeah. So
No.
you might be on the nail there.
Could
I
be
think.
onto something there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is interesting that we haven't had red flank bluetail. It defies logic, really. I mean, I had probably about 15 years ago, I had a possible, but I couldn't nail it. Down in the sycamores at the Nays. Just, it got away.
Yeah.
Got a couple more questions. So Pete Dwyer has said, hello, Pete. He
Pete.
said, where can we get the Essex Bird Report? So
Essex Bird Report, that's an easy one. We can get it from Pete Dwyer.
or, yeah, join
Or
Essex
join
Birdwatching
even
Society.
better. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
was
the
gonna ask
joining
you that
details
question.
are on the website.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that question as well, Simon. What advice would you give to a birder starting out now?
A bird is
Just maybe
starting.
a young birder and then somebody who's more mature.
Well, I think I've pretty much the same probably applies to both. I think the thing is to get out there as much as you can. I mean, I know we've got COVID restrictions at the moment, so it makes it difficult. But I think the best thing you can do is get out there. Get out there. Possibly, if you can, with someone knowledgeable. It's not vital. You can go out there, and it's how I learned. You just went out. The important thing I've learned is try and learn the songs and the calls. So often you will only ever pick up something because you hear a call or you hear a song. So they're vital. These days it's so much easier. I mean, in my day, if I wanted to take songs and calls out with me, I'd have had to strap a gramophone on my back and put a record on it. What was that? Which is that? These days you can any phone, you can get an app. Some of them are free, some of them, like the Collins one, you have to pay for. But if you've got that with you, you can be out there, and you can, if you've got something you're not sure of, at least you can have a look and play it back.
So true.
You can also go home now and listen to them so easily. But I think the thing is practice. Practice. It's like anything else. Practice, and ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask. And as I've said before, don't be afraid to get it wrong.
That's great advice. Yeah, I think for both categories. That's good. Yeah.
Just got one final comment on here from Neil Sumner. I think he's recently become a sub-editor for the Bird Report.
Yep.
And he said, as a new sub-editor of the Essex Bird Report, I can recommend it. It's rewarding, working from clear guidelines and given time to fit it in on rainy days. So particularly at the moment, I guess, we're all kind of staying at home as much as possible. So if anyone does want to get involved, contact the society and we'll give you further details.
Excellent. Thanks, Simon. That's been great.
That's
you can hang on with us, or you can leave, whichever is more comfortable for you, for your viewing pleasure.
Well, I think if you ping me out, I'll carry on looking. Have you got that open card? Hang on, I'm just
okay.
Oh, hang on. We're going to have to go back online by the sound of it.
He wants another coffee, doesn't he? That's what it is.
Coffee liqueur, yeah.
Oh, coffee liqueur.
I'll just leave it to you. As I say, Ken, if you want to hit the leave whenever you come, we're going to move on to sightings, I think, and what people are seeing. If people have put any feedback on that, kind of what's around their areas, on their patches. Obviously, we're not recommending people go trekking across the county or anything like that for anything rare. And if you are seeing anything rare, then the responsible position is probably to just keep it to local people at the very most at the moment. I know the national agencies seem to be moving that way, the reporting agencies, but I don't know whether time's flying, guys. Should we leave the ID guides until next time?
Yeah, let's do it next time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so sorry if you've tuned in for that. You're going to have a bumper session next time, because we're not going to just do ID guides. We've seen people asking for advice on binoculars and scopes and things like that. So we're going to cover that, and we'll have a session next time where we cover ID guides and the kind of kit that is available at different levels. See you, Simon.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Simon, take it easy, mate.
And then there were 3. That was good, though, wasn't it? Good to have Simon.
Yeah,
interesting.
Nice insight.
So looking at my program here, not missed anything out other than to remind people as we start sightings about the rookery sightings that Howard encouraged us to do. I went out locally within walking distance of local rookery here at TTNP Golden Gates, and I counted 95 nests which is
Excellent.
quite a significant rookery, isn't it? And it's kind of, that's probably, it used to be half of it. It's probably 2/3 of it now because it's kind of split, that particular rookery, by the looks. I've got to count the other bit, but there were over 150 rooks in station one late afternoon, and I'm guessing others were probably as many away. And again, on my Twitter feed, I put some footage up the other night as I walked back just after dark as they're kind of going to roost, as the Storm Christoph was piling in, and all the tops of the trees where the nests were too much for the rooks to land on. And so they came lower down to the edge of the path where I was. And I looked out this kind of vista between the trees into the darkness, but had latent heat, light from those cranes actually in the Simon's Books picture at DP World. And it was covered with these shapes of rooks and jackdaws and the sound. It was absolutely spectacular. One of those little awe moments. So, yeah, count your rookeries, and Howard's information, I think he put it in the last email, but I'll get it to us, and we'll see if we can do a bit of a survey across the county within obviously where you are, to count the rookeries of the county. But over to you, Steve and Matt, for this session.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I'm only doing my local walks. But one thing I've noticed being out on the walks is linnets. Seen some big flocks of linnets, and there's a flock that's literally a 3-minute walk from the house. And this is where Matt's picture came in earlier, that you see a number of birds and you have a guess at what you think it is. And I always underestimate. So I estimated this flock to be about 60 linnets to 100. Took a photo, 260.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm seeing flocks of that size in various places. So if anyone's out and about at the moment, record your linnets.
Fantastic.
And isn't it worth having a look among them if you can? And I know it's quite a detail. I struggle on this one to see if there's any twite. Because down here, we get twite in some of the winter flock. Just a couple. I think we had 4 one year.
Yep.
But they fly with the linnets, and they come onto particularly salt marsh areas and this time of year.
Yeah, well looking, and maybe red poles as well.
Definitely lots of red poles being reported around here, more the woodland, and siskin as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Longer tail, isn't it, the twite? Is that the best way to pick it out from a linnet flock? It's just got a longer tail.
Not easy,
No, it's
a good view, but
I think if you kind of get the call can be kind of a little bit more distinctive to tip you off if there's one around. But then it's really kind of, for me, I spent 2 or 3 hours last year looking through a flock, and they're always flitty. And once they settled, then I could get on the beak, and I managed to get some yellow in the beak and the size of the beak. And and I still was not 99%, but I think pretty sure it was. Yeah.
Well, I've kind of been keeping local, so I've been to Colchester Castle Park, and as I said, I've stopped off at Ardley. And because I work in Ipswich, I've stopped a couple of times on the way through at Manningtree, again, just to get out and have a bit of a walk up and down the walls. There's my daily exercise. But Ardley Reservoir really for me has been great because I can be there. It's about a 15-minute walk from where I live, and then you can just walk from the causeway to causeway. You've got a good line of bushes and trees. I've had tree creeper there. I've had gold crests. I had 15 goosander a couple of days ago, which I was really pleased with.
Wow, nice.
And you get little egrets. I've had a great white egret actually this year. In fact, if I can find the picture while I'm talking, I watched this particular great white egret catch a. Let me get this right. It was a perch, I think. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But if I can just share this screen. This was quite interesting because basically the bird caught this fish, and this fish was just an absolute monster, as you're about to see, hopefully. Here we go. I don't know if you can see that.
It's coming.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of caught the fish, and it sort of, the pictures aren't particularly great. It was actually quite a misty day, so apologies on the quality of the pictures, but caught the fish and it kind of walked to the side with it. And then it put it down. I didn't get any further pictures after this one, but it put it down on the side and looked at it as if to think, you know, what am I going to do with this? And within about 3 seconds, the fish just flipped back into the water and disappeared. And the egret spent probably another 5 minutes or so, I think, trying to find it and work out what happened. So that was a really good bird. You get kingfisher at Ardea Reservoir and really nice flocks of fieldfare as well. You know, I've had over 100 fieldfare there. But the redwings seem to have gone down in numbers, certainly locally to me anyway. I don't know if anyone's experienced that.
I think a lot of the berries have gone. I think they've basically stripped them bare, you know.
I've got a picture here, Matt. This was first week of January. Remember on the Big County Birdwatch, you guys were seeing quite a few fieldfare and I had none. And you got that one there? And we suddenly, at the end of December, had an influx of about 300 fieldfare. And then the number went up to something like 500 with probably 100, 200 redwing. And this was in the first few days of the new year. And this was just one of probably 7 or 8 trees that were literally full of them. And they, interestingly enough, there was historically an orchard at the back of the Barter estate at East Tilbury, and they were feeding in that particular area, which makes me wonder whether they know traditionally that's a place for fruit and food, and now there's lots of hawthorn berries. But then probably a couple of weeks later, it flipped, and we had 400 redwing and about 100 fieldfare as they seem to kind of disperse about. And then just after the last week, the numbers are right down, just kind of, you know, we're talking kind of 10s, 20s rather than hundreds.
Okay.
Cool.
Quite sorry, Matt, to say it's quite interesting that 30 years ago this week, there was a Nauman's thrush. So a rare Asian thrush turned up in sort of metropolitan Essex. I think it was South Woodford, I think it was, or somewhere around that way. So worth checking amongst the fieldfares for maybe dusky thrush, black-throated thrush, red-throated thrush. There's only ever been one in Britain, and that was at the Naze in '94, I think it was. So well worth checking through your local flocks.
Yeah.
Excellent. Before I forget, I just want to give a little bit of a shout out to somebody that's hopefully watching, Terry Mulby. So if you're watching, Terry, hello, mate. And I know he's going through a few difficult times at the moment. So just hope you're okay. Hope you're well.
Yeah,
and fingers crossed, we'll stay safe and we'll see you birding hopefully in the not too distant future,
Brilliant.
Maybe in time for spring or summer.
That'd be good, mate. Yeah, take care.
Certainly, just back on the reports, guys. I've heard, again, this is something kind of people see over the garden. This is one of Pete Merchant's over his last lockdown garden. Red kite are on the move, aren't they? Yeah. And also with the ravens have been seen. One over Shoebury Nest today is Andrew, the ranger's their first bird over Gunners Park.
Well, it's funny you should say that because I've done a little summary of some of the more prominent birds that have been reported since the start of the year. And ravens, as far as I can tell, there's been 13 reports of raven from 10 different sites throughout Essex, with a peak of 4 birds seen at Bowers Marsh on the 1st.
Wow.
So they're definitely getting around. Obviously, some of them may be the same birds because they can move vast distances, but I think there's definitely several pairs in the county now. So it's worth watching the pylons because I think ravens nest quite early. They nest in February time.
Yeah, now's the time.
Yeah. So keep a watch on the pylons and tall structures, and hopefully we'll get some nesting ravens somewhere.
Just back to the red kites. Got a
lovely shot.
Give a shout out to Mike Rimmel for this beauty.
Oh, beauty.
In his local area, probably his backyard, to be honest. Kind of, he has them up near Hatfield Forest in Elsenham, I think it's where he.
Elsenham, yeah.
Elsenham, yeah, cracking shot. And he also had a sparrowhawk
wow.
as well. So
lovely.
Thanks for them, Mick.
Lovely. Yes, I mean other sightings around the county. Just to quickly run through a few bits and pieces. So obviously winter birds really is the key focus. So we've had black brant. There's been at least one black brant seen at Mersey and also in the Heybridge Basin, which is, as Simon said earlier on. So I'm not sure whether that's likely to be the same bird or maybe there's two. I don't know.
I imagine there's more. The Mersey bird, I think, comes back every year. So, and I think there's been one at Old Hall back in very early January. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Then over at Holland Haven at the moment, I'm going to put some pictures up just so people can see something other than my face. So there's a couple of pink-foots been over at Holland Haven. Again, with pink-footed geese, you can see even from a distant fuzzy picture, the back of the bird looks quite frosty. So if you compare to a bean goose, which funny enough, the next picture shows a pink-footed goose behind the bean goose. So the bean goose is on the left there. I hope you can see the mouse pointer. Pink foot on the right. Now, obviously the pink foot's got pink feet, but if you couldn't see them, the pink foot's got a kind of a more contrast between the head and the neck than a bean goose, slightly darker looking head. And it's a frostier looking back. So the flank panel here tends to be a darker color than the back of the bird, whereas the bean goose is more of a consistent color throughout. So that's the way that I normally try and spot them if I can. Now let me just bring my list up, sorry. So we've had tundra bean geese. There's still been a few tundra bean geese around at Abberton. I think there's still 6. St Ovis had one, Jaywick had one fly past as well. And again with tundra bean, the other feature of them is that the leg colour is orange, whereas obviously on the pink foot it's pink. And again, you can see on this picture here, nice orange legs on that bean goose. I hope you can you still see the pictures? Are they still coming through?
Yeah, all good, Matt.
Excellent. And then of course the other goose that we see this time of year is the white-fronted goose. So there's still been good numbers of white-fronted goose all over the place really, but there's flocks of over 100 at Old Hall, 113 on the 2nd of Jan, and 122 at Copt Hall. So maybe the same flock just moving around. That was on the 3rd of Jan. And white-fronted geese, as you can see, these are going to be Russian white-fronted geese. And you can tell the Russian white front because the bill is pink, basically. And you've got, obviously, there's a white shield behind the bill on the adult birds, and they have variable black banding on the breast as well. A picture from a couple of years ago of the other white-fronted goose that we sometimes get, which is the Greenland white front. And this was taken at Holland Haven, I think, 3 years ago. And you can clearly see here that the bill of the bird is orange compared to the pink bill on the Russian white front. So again, it's just a nice thing to look out for. If you see some white-fronted geese, have a look at them and see if you can work out where they might have come from.
Really valid point that, Matt, because even down here, I heard of some white-fronted geese sort of flying over. So you might see them as you're out walking, flying over and hear them. They've got quite a distinctive call, haven't they? Kind of a wink, and the pink-footed as well.
They have. They sound a lot sort of higher pitched than grey lags.
Yeah, a lot different.
So if you see a skein of geese coming in a maybe a V formation usually, and they've got a really high pitched call, and they tend to be very vocal, it's worth having a look and see if you can see black banding or white patches behind the bill, because it could be white fronts or pink foot. And the pink foot look a lot shorter necked in flight as well.
Yeah.
Then swans, we've had Bewick swan at Abberton. I think there was 7 Bewick swan on the 3rd. We've had long-tailed duck still at Abberton. There's been smew, so I'm just going to rattle past. Pictures here on the Bewick swan, actually. This is quite interesting. This is actually a picture that I took just before lockdown of 2 of the Bewick swans that were at Abberton. And I don't know if you can see, again, it's not a great picture because the weather was rubbish, but can you see this bird has got a weird shaped bill?
Deformed beak, yeah.
Yeah, deformed beak. Now, when I got home and saw that, it kind of brought back some memories. So I went through some old pictures, and I think two or 3 years ago in Wigborough Bay, exactly the same time of the year, I think 2 days apart.
My word.
That to me looks like the same bird.
Yeah.
I've been reliably informed. I think it was David Lowe said that they can be site faithful.
Yeah.
So looks like this bird has come back again. Smew. So smew are a fantastic winter duck. And we've been lucky enough at Abberton to have a redhead smew and a fabulous drake smew was reported as well. So again, unfortunately, we can't necessarily get to see it. Yeah. But there has been one there. And then of course you've got goose anders.
Yeah, worth checking your local gravel pits and stuff for these birds.
Yeah,
Well,
particularly
definitely.
during the freeze, we're going to get cold weather, aren't we? So the shallower and smaller
Absolutely.
ponds are going to cool, freeze. So if you're near a larger body of water, check it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been checking Ardley and hoping for a smear on Ardley Reservoir. That'd be fantastic if I can get one. Goosanders, as I said before, have been around quite frequently, and they've been seen across the county in small numbers. I think the peak count of goosander was 39 at Abberton on the 2nd of Jan, and that's just a picture I took of some of the ones at Ardley. That was actually earlier today, to be fair, on my walk today. So yeah, there's a nice little group there still. And then just rattling through, we've got red-breasted mergansers around. They're again another the relative of the goosander. They're part of the sawbill family, and there's been some of those on the Blackwater and the Stour. Peak count at 23. We've still got grebes, winter grebes around. Redneck grebe at Abberton, Slavonian grebes off of Mersey. They've been seen up to 4 of those. There's still, by all reports, 7 purple sandpipers at Holland Haven. So Holland Haven is quite good for purple sands along the front, and they're very confiding. You can get nice and close to them. And then we've had divers. There was Paul Brayshaw at Frinton had a fantastic day on red-throated divers on the 20th. 1,675 red-throated divers he had go past. So his clicker finger must have been a little bit sore after that, I reckon.
That was an Essex record, I think, wasn't it, for that number?
Essex record, yeah, incredible. And on the same day, he had 109 kittiwake go past as well, which again is a good number for Essex as well. Then we've had black-throated divers. There's been one at Hanningfield and Mersey. And of course, there's still some great northern divers around. I think three birds have been frequenting the Blackwater. We had a fulmar go past Holland. Again, I think Paul Brayshaw picked that up. So it's a little bit of an unseasonal bird. You wouldn't necessarily expect to see one at this time of year. And then, of course, you've got the cattle egret still at Abberton. There's been a few short-eared owls around, not many. One at Dovercourt, one at the Naze, and 2 at Gunpowder Park. A handful of merlins, mainly sort of fingering hoe, Abberton and the Naze. And then we had a great grey shrike. Now, I was going to actually ask you about this, Steve G. The great grey shrike was seen on the 3rd at Little Baddow, but there was one reported from Elmstead just before Christmas. So I wondered, do you reckon it might be the same bird? Or
Yeah, and they do cover big distances, especially when they're looking for food. They search one area and then move on to another area. So yeah, it could well be the same bird.
Yeah, and again, that's another bird. This time of year, it's worth sort of scanning. If you are out on your walk, scan hedgerows. If you see a very pale grey-looking bird, maybe sitting on the top of a bush or the top of a hedge, and they tend to kind of stay in the same area, they'll go from sort of perch to perch hunting, and they're definitely worth looking out for, and quite easy to spot if there's one around. And then finally, we've had a yellow-browed warbler in Little Clacton yesterday. So it was actually in someone's garden, and the chap whose garden it was in, he actually rings birds, and he managed to get a ring on it as well. So I think yellow-browed warbler this time of year, you do sometimes get 1 or 2 unusual birds staying around, but that's really interesting to see that locally. Only one water pipit reported that I could find, so I don't know if there's been any water pipits around your areas, guys, but I couldn't see anything.
One at Bowers Marsh today, I think.
Okay.
I think I may have seen reports of Rainham. Don't quote me on that though. But
okay.
Yeah.
And then last month's white-cheeked pintail at Abberton seems to have just rattled through some pictures I was going to go through here. Here we go. So the white-cheeked pintail seems to have multiplied, and you've got
found a mate.
Yeah, I think they call
it an albino or something.
I think they call it. Is it a silver Bahama teal or a Bahama pintail or something? I think.
I'll tell you something. It'll be on Steve's list.
Sorry.
It'll be on Steve's list.
On my list.
Yes, it's going to go on my list as well, I think.
It's too far for Steve, but
yeah, I can't get there, mate. I'm drooling.
That's about it, really. So still
beautiful little duck.
There's still some good birds out there, and those have all been reported by people staying local. No one's going no one's traveling miles across the county to see things. And obviously we shouldn't be doing, as we said before. So you can't do any twitching or anything at the moment. But if you stay local, as Steve G said earlier on, you will find things that you didn't know were there.
You can't get more local than this one. You missed a few, Matt, just to kind of there's that one. If anybody wants to write in with what they think that is. It's, the story here was I went on Facebook on the website and saw this picture and somebody asking what the bird was. And I'm sure people, at least one or two at home, were saying it's a sacred ibis, or at the very least a well-oiled curlew. But actually I thought, well, it looks, it's got the shape of a sacred ibis, but it doesn't look quite proportioned. It's an odd place for a sacred ibis, because this is kind of hollow pond down in Walthamstow. So you can't stay, you're talking about local, you're in local London down there. And I thought, I'll contact Howard, who, as you know from the last review, is the East London Bird Forum key guy, and find out whether he knows anything about it. To which I got, yeah, it's plastic. Now, what Simon didn't say, some of these odd categories of escape birds by experienced birders are nicknamed plastic. So I didn't know whether he meant it's an escapee from London Zoo or whether it's literal plastic. So I messaged back, are we talking, you know, PP plastic or an escapee? He said, no, plastic, it's a decoy bird. So I thought, well, how in the world do I share with a lady who sent it in, who's been watching it for an hour or so, and among locals, you know, that actually it's just a plastic bird. But before I did, as I was writing a nice reply, courteous reply, she exclaimed in a message to me, someone's just told me it's plastic. But it fooled me. But yeah, so beware of that one. But that one, do you recognise that one, boys?
I remember.
Yes.
That's our November Dartford Warbler.
Yeah, lovely.
We got together at East Tilby, and that's still been around. That's a picture by Adrian Webb. And actually a second one, a cracking adult, turned up, but that's been missing for probably a week, 10 days around the East Tilby area. And I thought I'd just close with this, because I know Steve was desperate to see one. It's a golden eye from one of the local late Steve.
Yeah,
female, not the best shot to me.
Well, you know what? If I hang on,
you don't know how lucky you are, you guys, having gravel pits and reservoirs and water. Yeah. I am so jealous.
I was watching 7,500 Dunlin yesterday on the river.
Can you see that?
That's
you should have told me you've got that. You've embarrassed me now, Matt.
That was taken again just before lockdown at Mistley Quay. And if you go to Mistley Quay, not only do you get the Med Gull, but if you're lucky, you'll get a group of goldeneye and also sometimes some red-breasted merganser, and they will come in quite close. And I just love it when the goldeneye throw their head back like that. It's just fantastic. Looks brilliant. Yeah. Right,
so what? Well, we've kind of covered, haven't we? What to look out for?
Yeah.
Just a quickie. There's talking about white-fronted geese earlier. On Wallasey Island today, there were 437.
Wow.
Which is a phenomenal number.
Wow. It must be kind of, you know, it'd be interesting to look back in Simon's Birds of Essex and other historical records to see whether ever historically there were the kind of numbers that we're seeing. It would have been a long time ago, I would have thought.
I mean, obviously, there's been a bit of an influx, but then it's also down to like the RSPB. They've created such a good habitat. Policy that, you know, they're obviously finding something to their liking. Yeah.
And again, with that number, every chance of a flyover, even if you kind of don't live, you know, on that doorstep, out at the right time. Yeah.
Right. So I think it's about time for this.
Almost. People will be falling asleep.
Did I do the welly survey first?
Oh, okay. Go on then. Hang on. Let me just stop
drum roll.
There you go.
Drum roll.
Wasn't a huge response to it because I was a little bit late in putting it up, but 25% are going for neoprene and the £3, 75 pound to 100 plus. None are going for the side buckle hunter.
It's too expensive.
And then, which I've kind of put as the mid to high price, 25% are with me with a budget Dunlop, but 50% of the survey are going with other boots and gaiters.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I'd like to see you walking down through the water down here. But there we go.
Right. So this golden plover flock. So we've had some guesses come through.
Can
Neil,
we guess?
Sorry?
Can we guess?
You know. Stop cheating. Neil Sumner guessed 850. So that's a pretty good guess, to be fair.
Yeah.
Jenny guessed 484. Jerry guessed 1,777. Then we had Nicholas Warner, who said 450. And Michael Rumsby, Ben's dad, hi Ben if you're watching, said 650.
And I've
but
got
the closest.
Before you go.
Oh, go on.
Mo Jackson, 1,488.
Oh, that's pretty good. But the closest by far was Malcolm Cresswell, who guessed 1,021, which, to be fair, is very, very good. Now, I counted every bird in the picture, and I actually counted wingtips at the edges as well, because they're birds. And the number I got to was 1,049. So Malcolm is literally 28 away. Really, really clever.
Impressive.
So well done. And we'll get a badge or maybe a mug if we can find one out to you in the post. If you can email me your details to ebwstalks@gmail.com, and I'll get that sorted out for you.
Brilliant. And we should be able to get a sweatshirt to that person who watched that first video we did, that we promised a sweatshirt to the first person that got a message back to us, didn't we?
Yeah, I've sent an email.
Out to this guy, so apologies for that, but that's now going to be sorted.
Yeah, end of Feb, they're coming through.
Brilliant. Good. Over to you to wind up then, I think, Matt. If
so really,
comments or anything.
I think we've done everything really. I don't think there's any more questions that I can see. If I've missed anything, apologies. Obviously, I'm trying to monitor everything at once here and talk as well. But I think we're up to date on all the questions. Just like to thank everybody for watching and getting involved. We really enjoyed doing this, but obviously we wouldn't be doing it if we weren't getting the feedback, and it's really nice to get that feedback and involvement. So thanks to everyone. Obviously stay safe, as we discussed before. That's the primary thing. Get out, do your exercise walks, see if you can see some birds while you're out, and as Simon said, see if you can hear some birds too. And in fact, I've just done that. This is a little tip. You may know this already, but if you can hear a bird calling, and maybe it's in the distance, or you've got some traffic behind you, or other noise interfering, if you cup your hands behind your ears like that, it does two things. Number one, it makes you look like a complete idiot, which is always quite good fun.
I can do that anyway.
But number two, it really does amplify that sound coming towards you. So it kind of helps to reflect the sound back into your ears. It helps to block out other sounds from behind you or maybe beside you. And it can make something sound louder and easier to work out what it is. Don't forget to join the society if you're not already a member. So please join up. It's only £16 for a year for an adult. And I think it's just £4 for a junior if you're under 18. So really, really good society to be part of. When we're working under normal circumstances, we'd be having indoor meetings. Obviously, we've got the virtual catch-ups monthly, which we're still doing. We're doing virtual meetings. Now, our next virtual meeting, you might have to help me out here. I can't remember the date. I do apologise.
Yeah.
Is it the 5th, Steve?
5th of Feb.
Friday the 5th of February.
5th of Feb. Steve Grimwade's doing a talk. I don't know who he is.
No idea.
Yeah. It's going to be a cracker. I went to your last talk a couple of years ago, I think it was, wasn't it?
Last year.
Was it last year?
Last January.
Yeah, brilliant. So please, if anyone watching is free on the 5th, or make yourselves free on the 5th at 8 p.m, please tune in and watch these talks. That's going to be really, really good. I think that's about it, really. Yeah,
next Birds of Essex, I think it's the 19th of February.
19th of February. Yeah, we're doing this again on the 19th of Feb. Yeah,
and we'll be covering optics and the field guides, where to start, how to kind of advance your birding. Yeah, that was one. Took that from Simon's picture.
My favourite.
Yeah, and give him more of an update. Let's hope that by then, maybe kind of we're able to at least look forward to getting out and doing more birding kind of a little further afield. But thanks for watching, and yeah, stay safe.
Yep.
And
Stay
we'll see you
safe,
next time.
Everybody. Yeah.
We'll see you all next month. See you later.
Bye all.
Take
Bye.
it easy. See you later.